Well, thank you everybody for having me at the RATPAC this evening. Or this morning. It's now 4 o'clock in the morning here, so I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed as I am every morning at 4 o'clock, which is not where I usually am and not sitting in this seat. But anyway, I'm Eric Guth, 4Z1UG. In the United States, I'm WA6IGR. I live in Efrat, Israel, which is a bedroom community of Jerusalem, 8 miles south of the old city of Jerusalem in the Judean hills. From my window, I can look across the valley, actually to another little town called Neve Daniel, and that's the highest town in Israel. It's on a ridge that overlooks the entire coastal plain from Egypt up to mid state up to about Caesarea. It's a great place to put a repeater. I've been trying to get one there for years, but I have a repeater sitting over on another hill, which is slightly to the south, which has pretty good coverage as well. The only problem with that particular site is it doesn't cover my ham shack here, so I have to stand on the upstairs balcony to talk on it. But anyway, I'm here to talk to you a little bit today about the QSO Today Virtual Ham Expo. The fifth one starts on the 17th this weekend. In fact, I think that's tomorrow UTC. My time, it's actually, we start at 1800 Pacific on Friday evening, and we start with RATPAC, and we're starting with the Ham Radio Workbench podcast, and we have a great presentation about how to build 122 gigahertz transceivers. So anybody that wants to do a short skip on 122 gigahertz should tune into something like that. So anyway, so let me start. If I think I can share some slides. By the way, I see the chat going. I'm not looking at the chat, so if Dan, if you have questions that you want that are coming from the chat, you want to give those to me, you'll have to feed those to me by audio if you don't mind.
Well, we have two people monitoring chat, so go ahead.
Okay, good. So I'm going to share my desktop. Okay. Now, so what you should see is the slide. Do you see the slide? Because all of a sudden my video disappeared from my screen here. Okay, so, okay. It's been a long time since I've used Zoom here. Okay, good. Okay, so we're talking a little bit today about the QSO Today Virtual Ham Expo. So a little bit of background. I just have some slides that are sitting here on a PDF, so I'll move it up here. A brief bio on me. I was first licensed in 1973. As a novice, my call sign was WN6VHV. I was living in San Diego County at the time. Frankly, that was the worst call if you were a novice. It didn't get much better when I upgraded to general the following year. On single sideband and FM, it was a mouthful. When I had an opportunity to get a secondary station, and in those days, you had to have a secondary station license to have a remote base station. So I was into FM and remote base stations, and I started, and I got the call WA6IGR. When that requirement went away and I had to surrender one of those call signs, the VHV call sign was the first call sign I decided to get rid of. And now I'm WA6IGR and have been since about 1978. My major in college was history. I had started off as an electronic engineer in the University of California. Unfortunately, when I got to my second year and tried to do differential equations in every class, I crashed and burned. I became a history major. That was a whole interesting thing. My vocation is I'm a serial entrepreneur. That means I've done a whole bunch of businesses rather poorly, but for the most part, I've still been able to make a living, and that's what I still do. I'm married 40 years. I have two children who are now in their 30s. I have 6 grandchildren and who, fortunately, thank God, live in Jerusalem, so I get to see them every week. And that's my story. I'm also the creator of the QSO Today podcast, and I started that in 2014. I've interviewed now 418 ham radio operators. I'm trying to create, or what I've been doing is creating the oral history of amateur radio, and as told by the people who were my mentors, my Elmers in amateur radio since the dawn of time. I've been a ham now, as if I do the math, 49 years, and I owe any success in ham radio to the smarter people that kind of took me under their wing and allowed me to learn ham radio. I'm infatuated with ham radio. I was then. I had to take a break for 25 years to raise a family, and I get over the infatuation, and as soon as I could, I jump back in, and I'm now still infatuated. I'm a firm believer that we're in the golden age of amateur radio. That means that there has never been a better time to be an amateur radio operator. The internet has made the process of exchanging information. I was just talking to Dennis a little bit earlier, and he knows this as well. It used to be 50 years ago, or maybe even 30 years ago, that if somebody had something to say technically about amateur radio, that you write a magazine article, you publish it in QST or 73 or CQ. It would get out there, people would read it, and it would take about the whole process is about 11 months to be able to create an idea and then get feedback on that idea with either a letter to the editor or a response took about 11 months. So what's interesting now is that with the internet, we're able to publish an idea, or this weekend you'll see over 50 presentations at the QSO Today Virtual Ham Expo. I hope you come. That now we can put a presentation out there and the feedback is instant, and the response in terms of other amateur radios looking at a presentation like this and then going into their workshop, that response could be instant, or it could be within a week, it could be within a month. But the fact is, as a result, we iterate exponentially now, which means that there's no stopping us when it comes to what we can do in amateur radio. The other thing is that I often say on my podcast that amateur radio reminds me of the three-ring circuses I used to see at the LA Sports Arena when I was a kid, and that is that you'd go to the circus. It had these three rings of acts going on at the same time, but outside there was a midway of tents. Amateur radio is that three-ring circus, and maybe in the center rings there's single sideband, there's DXing, there's contesting, but we have 1,000 tents on either side of this big tent, and those little tents contain things like software-defined radio, satellite technology. Now we have networking your ham shack, but it's network technology, so that your ham shack you don't have to sit in your ham shack now to operate. Your ham shack could sit in a box, at some place that's more convenient, or maybe it's even in a remote site because you can't have antennas in your HOA. And you can operate that amateur station. I was talking to somebody just a few days ago who was doing 6-meter meteor scatter with 1,000-watt transmitter, and he was sitting on his couch with a cup of coffee and using his iPad in order to make these meteor scatter contacts. So we have 1,000 tents in amateur radio. These 1,000 tents are all very interesting, and we now have, through the use of the internet and the technologies like we're using Zoom, to be able to share this with each other and iterate one after the other. And that's what I like to talk about on QSO Today with my guests. So this is just this is an old slide, but now we're at 418 episodes. My audience is still today the same as it was when I first started, mostly 95% North American and Canada. That's what I see on the stats. We're older. Most of my listeners are like me. I'm 65 years old, but we're older. We've been in ham radio a long time, and the majority of us have the extra class license. So My goal has always been with the QSO Today podcast to entertain, educate, and inform. I think that's the goal of every podcast, because if you don't do those things, you don't have an audience. And what's interesting for me is that I have many of the same audience in terms of people supporting the podcast that I've had since 2014. Switching over to the QSO Today Virtual Ham Expo, I started the Expo in August of 2020 as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic, which thank God is winding down. And but at that time, as you all remember, and that was, I think, the reason that Dan started RATPAC as well, was that there was no amateur radio activity anywhere in the world in terms of conventions. Ham fests, everything was dead. And I got this idea in the spring of 2020, as I was planning to go to the Dayton Hamvention, that since everything's canceled, we should find somebody that will do a virtual convention. Well, so I started looking out there, and there wasn't anybody that was going to do a virtual convention. Friedrichshafen had closed, Dayton had closed, everything was closing up, and it looked like everything would. So I got this idea, okay, well, why don't I start a virtual convention? And I started looking for online platforms. Now, at the time, since everything was closing, everybody wanted virtual platforms for conventions. So I went to company after company. Can you help me with a virtual convention? They say, oh, no, we're too busy providing conventions to people that know how to do virtual conventions. Don't call us. So I finally found a company, which I'm using now, called VFairs, and I sent them a message, and they said, only reply to us if you're going to put contract in the subject line. So I wrote contract in the subject line, and the rest is history. I created the first virtual convention in August of 2020 on what's called a VFairs platform. That platform allows us to kind of make it look like a real convention, but it was all virtual. And so that was when I did the first convention. I'm just showing just some slides here of what was canceled in 2020. This is the logo for the convention today. This is what it looked like the first time we did it. We had an outdoor lobby with a rotating sign. ICOM was the platinum sponsor. The ARRL is a partner. We had a virtual auditorium. We had a virtual lobby with people walking around. In fact, there were even people that were sending me names and call signs of the people that they saw walking around in our virtual lobby. And I thought that was kind of interesting, because if you look them up on QRZ, they kind of maybe looked like the same people. The results of the 2020 convention is that we had 25,000 people who registered, 16,000 people attended. The average session attendance, that first expo, I think we had about 60 presentations, virtual presentations. And what that means is that we record the presentations in advance so that we have a good quality presentation, but we come on live right afterwards with the presenter to do live question and answers. At that time, I think we used Zoom as the way to do the Q&A. So we had to kind of move the audience from the VFairs platform to a Zoom session in order to do the Q&A. We try to record everything, and then we put it all together for later. What we discovered, though, was from the stats, at least at the time, was that 60% of the people that we polled, and at the time I think we got 9,000 ballots back, that 60% never attended any national shows. So they didn't go to the Daytons or the Orlando Hamcation or the Alabama convention, which escapes me at the moment. And then 40% never attended local ham fests or shows. So we thought that was interesting, because that kind of made us think that maybe there's still a market for virtual convention. We still believe that. Okay, so let me now go to my other slide, my other thing here. Okay, so let's talk about today. Since that time, we've done 4 conventions. The first time you saw me on RATPAC was after the second convention. What I did then, and what I continue to do is I try to kind of push the envelope in terms of user experience. So that meant that in March of 2021, I tried to merge two platforms together, the VFairs platform, so that you could go into the convention, but I wanted something more intimate. I wanted the ability for amateur radio operators to kind of sit together in informal video chat settings, kind of like we're doing now, but more informally, so that you could actually wander around, find a group, and sit at the table with them. And so we tried to merge the system with a product called AirMeet. Now, AirMeet on its own is a really wonderful platform, for this purpose. And what happened was the programming didn't seem quite right. The programmer I was using, who was excellent at the time, the weekend of the event, was intubated in the hospital with COVID-19, and everything kind of fell apart. So the first time I came on RATPAC was that following week, where I made a presentation of what happened at the Expo. Fortunately, the majority of people who came to the Expo sent me, let's say, positive messages that I should keep doing it, even though there was this technical snafu. And even with, I think we had 9,000 registrations at the time, the majority, about 7,000, were able to come to the Expo anyway. They were able to get around the password management issues that we had that would prevented people from getting on the AirMeet platform. The 7,000 were still able to come. The presentations were excellent, and as a result, the event was very good. So one of the things that we did that week is as soon as my programmer, who was in Algeria at the time, got out of the hospital, is that we figured, well, you know what, we can save this by, during the 30-day on-demand period, we could actually create a player that would allow us to, and I'll just bring that up so you can actually see here. So we created this player that would allow anyone to go and watch all of the Expo presentations that were done. But this player also, we created this for blind and vision impaired people. So this player that is on our website is JAWS screen reader compatible. So you can actually, if you're blind, you can actually go through the list from one end to the other, and you can find a presentation. And if we click on one here, for example, it opens up its own embedded player, and it has keyboard controls. As a result of putting this up, and we put this up like 3 days after the event. So literally, my programmer got out of the hospital. He rested for 24 hours, and he came back and he built this player. We were able to serve up over 100,000 presentations, for the remaining 30 days. So everyone who was unable or had problems over the presentation weekend was able to come back and look at the presentations, and over 100,000 downloads later, that's exactly what happened. So we were kind of thrilled with how that all turned out, and as a result, we did it again. So we've done 4 expos to date. The presenters are enthusiastic and amazing, and so the presentations that we have, and I'm just showing you the website here, and I urge you to go to QSO today, hamexpo.com, to see this for yourself. But we have over 55 presentations. They're all listed on the website, so you can see that. And as a result, every time we do an expo, we actually iterate the technology. So this website that you see is all being driven from a product called Airtable. So as I get a presentation and I accept it, it actually builds this website. So we have we now have some automated content management. It means I don't need as many people to do the back office work as we've had before. This presentation section, for example, is completely searchable. So if I wanted to look for, say, SDR, then it brings up all of the things that might have SDR in it. Flex Radio is a platinum sponsor. That's why you see a lot of Flex Radio things here. So you can search on any term that's in the in any of the listings, and it will come up here. And then of course, we build the speakers page automatically as well. This is all done, again, it's live. As soon as I, accept something, accept the speaker, accept the presentation, it's built here on the website. Okay, so a little bit about what we're doing at the Expo that might be new this time. What we're doing is we've created a. Let me see if I can go over to the Expo. Let's see here. How do I get rid of this menu bar? Let me do it this way. Okay, so this is the last March Expo, so we're hiding, at least for RATPAC, we're hiding what the new convention center looks like for now. But this was the one that we used last March. So I just wanted to show you, we have a new product that we're calling it the Project Gallery, and these are submissions by people who are not going to be who are not presenters in the formal way. They're not doing a formal presentation. Instead, what they've done is they've created a kiosk. And so each of these is an individual, kind of like a science fair project, like you'd see at a, in your kid's high school or junior high school. So each of these is a standalone kiosk. If you go to like this one here, Rig Select Pro, if you click on it, it opens up a white paper. You can do live Q&A with the person for the entire weekend and even during the 30-day on-demand period. Now, it's possible they're not going to always answer, but you can do questions and answers while reading the paper, and if they're monitoring it, they can answer. Some of these have presentations that drop down. Well, that's no good. Let's find one that's ready here. Okay, so there are presentations. Of course, you can go full screen with the presentations. So that's the project gallery. Of course, we have an exhibit hall. We can click on the ARRL's booth. Every booth has a ribbon underneath it that's a menu, so that it actually goes to other places, either their website, their social media. It could also go to content, video content. There's a whole section underneath, with videos that they're sharing. There's a document sharing center at the bottom as well. You can collect all the documents, and at the end of the day, you can download them in PDF format to your computer. We have it says click to enter lounge. We're using a product called Kumo Space for our lounges. So let me go in there. And I'm turning on another. Okay, so this is a Kumo Space, and Kumo Space is a video conferencing system, kind of like Zoom, except that it's in little spaces that look like lounges. And one of the things that we can do, so here's my space, and I'm just showing you this picture, and I think what I'll do is I'll go into it. It goes bing bong. And I'm going to just show you the map of the room, because right now I'm at the front door. So here's a map of the room. I'll put this in the, okay. This is I don't want this video to play. Okay. So this is my lounge in Kumo Space at the Expo. And it has 6 seating areas, and this map is showing the whole room. Now I'm right here at the very entrance to the Kumo Space Lounge. Each of these seating areas is actually individual and distinct, meaning that if I'm sitting in this chair up here, so let me move over to this chair. By clicking on the chair on the map, it actually takes me there. That anybody that's in that seating area with me, I can hear them now and see them as if they're sitting there, and I can also so I can see them sitting around the table. They can sit on the table. They can sit, to the right or left of the table, and I'll hear them just fine, just like everybody else will who's joining me. But each of these seating areas is distinct. So there could be 6 simultaneous conversations happening, eyeball to eyeball, in the Kumo Space lounges, at least in my lounge and in some of the others. Somebody's joining. Oh, Anthony. Okay, so come, Anthony, come over to the table. No, click. Oh no, stay there, Anthony. I'll come down to you. Or you're coming up to me. Okay. No, open the map on the side. There you go. Okay, great. Okay, so let me zoom out a little bit.
Eric, you might want to mention the M key gives you the map in the upper right-hand corner.
That's right. So I'll just, I was going to make a video at the entrance to these rooms that does this, but this map here comes from, on the right-hand side, there's a picture of the map where you hit M on your keyboard and it opens the map. So I see the whole room. The great thing about this is if I enter a room and I'm sitting here at the bottom and I open the map, I can come over, mouse over, there's Anthony. It says who it is, so I can mouse over the icons and see who's in the room, and if I want to go sit and talk to that person. Now Anthony has his camera off, but I would see him. But the other thing we can do now is a new feature is we have what's called a gallery view, and if I click on this, then and I close this, then I can see Anthony just fine. Now, what's new about Kumo Space this time, if you saw it at the last Expo, is you see this little white box around the table. This is is a unique sound wall, meaning that anybody inside this box is going to hear me the same. Now, excuse me, Anthony, I'm just going to I'm going to leave this box for a second. Okay, now you see the circle around me. That's a sound circle. So anybody, if I'm outside of these seating areas, anybody who's next to me, where our circles overlap, I'll hear them and they'll hear me. Now, Anthony no longer hears me at the conversation because I've kind of stepped out of the area. But if I go back, then by double clicking on the chair, then I re-enter the area. And we can continue to have a conversation. Now that means that we could have 20 people sitting in this this box and having a conversation, and then over where this couch is over on the right, they could have their own conversation, and there's no overlapping. So this is a new feature of the Kumo Space lounges. If I excuse me, Anthony, I'm going to leave you. If we go back, you'll see that we have lounges for, this is where we were. This is my lounge. We're being joined by the Bouvet de-expedition team this weekend. And so I built them a Kumo Space lounge that looks like they're on top of a snow area. It has, they have 3 tents. They've got a beam and some coax laying on the snow. And then around each of these campfires is a place for you to have a conversation with the Bouvet team. Of course, ARDC is visiting. The amateur, the ARRL has their booth. Bigali, Bruna and Pietro Bigali will be there with Bigali Key. I built an eyeball QSO lounge so that each of these little pairs of chairs is enough space for 2 or 3 people to have individual conversations. So if you wanted to you might meet a friend online. And by the way you can meet a friend online is you can go over here at the bottom and click on people. And you can see where, Anthony is sitting over in the eyeball QSO lounge now. It looks like that's where he's gone. Michelle, if Michelle is there, she's in her lounge, which is right here. I think so you can actually find people, and you can actually, it says, you can direct message. In this particular case, with this thing, you can also take me there. Take me to Anthony, take me to Michelle, whether you're in the room or not. it will take you there, so you can actually find the person that you want to on this platform and go visit them. You can search it for it. So when we have a few hundred people in the Kumo Space lounges at the same time, you'll be able to find the people that you want wherever they are in this system. So those are the lounges. I'm the owner of this space, so that's why there are lounges that you don't see here that I do, that I could turn on and off. But yeah, we're very excited by this technology. It just gets better and better every time, and we're hoping that as people see the presentations, that we can get the presenters to go to one of the lounges and answer some more questions after their hour ends. So the idea is to make this combination of amazing presentations and the excellent ability to be able to have a face-to-face conversation, even though it's virtual, to allow us to have almost as good an event as if we were at a live event. But I have a caveat to that, and the caveat to that is that, in fact, I think, and this is my opinion, I think that the QSO Today Virtual Ham Expo is the best way to see presentations, because you're nose to nose with the presenter, unlike if you were in a major venue like Dayton, for example. Dayton is such a large show that while it has amazing presentations, the problem is that there's so many people and there's so much else to look at that you don't get to the presentations. And I often know from live presentations that I'll get into a presentation and realize I'm in the wrong one. But I don't want to be antisocial, so I won't get up in the middle and walk out and say, oh, I'm in the wrong presentation. With the QSO Today Virtual Ham Expo, if you decide you're in the wrong presentation, you take your mouse and you click and you go to one of the 3 or 4 that are happening at the same time. That's the first thing. The second thing is that if you miss a presentation, those presentations, once they play, are available online until a month after the expo. So you'll be able to return to the expo platform and watch all the presentations, or the ones that you want. And then what we do after the whole expo is over is that we will take the video that comes from the presentation and the Q&A, and then we will splice them together, clean it up, and that's what goes into our library. And at the moment, I'm trying to decide what we're going to do with that library after the expo. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I'm going to turn off my screen sharing, and I'm delighted to take questions.
Okay, guys, this is your chance. Jessica, you got a question. I can see it all over your face.
I just want to know where he's in Israel. He's not here in town, but he's just in Israel, correct?
No, this is on the internet.
Yes, on the internet in Israel, right?
No, it's on the internet in America.
Oh, it is.
And
Okay.
right, and the reason is my audience is even though I live in Israel, my audience is North American hams, because I'm still a North American ham.
Okay.
And the technology, I'm now sitting on fiber optic service here, a gigabit Ethernet, which is kind of amazing in this world. So I can attend this expo from any place in the world, as anybody else can, and I can even host it from Israel. Even though all the hosting is on Amazon AWS, which are big server farms all over America. And so the whole expo is actually being served in America, mostly to American hams. I start Pacific time, because that seems to me the way to get the most amateurs from coast to coast to be able to enjoy the expo. So it starts at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 1 a.m. UTC. So it's 6 p.m. Pacific time on Friday. Now, I have a unique problem, and that is that, and this is the advantage of being in Israel, is I'm an Orthodox Jew, which means that I go into the Sabbath before the expo begins, and I don't come out of it until 10:30 Pacific time in the morning on Saturday. If I was living in America, I wouldn't be able to attend my own expo. So even though I'm late to the party, I will get there at 10:30 in the morning, and I'm helping to moderate some of the presentations as I'm also kind of one of the back office guys. But that shouldn't dissuade anybody, because we have the whole team at VFairs who are all over the world as well, and but they will be on as soon as the expo starts to handle any issues. In fact, we're taking care of ticketing issues now. So I encourage people, if you have ticketing issues, to take care of your tickets now, and then you'll be all fixed before the expo. But we have a whole team behind us that will be answering questions if necessary. We have amazing presenters and moderators who are working together. So we hope that everything will run like a well-oiled machine. And if it doesn't, we're human, but we've worked very hard between the expos to kind of fine tune and make this a great event. And I can tell you that it takes a very large ham radio village to make the expo work and run. And you have a number of people here who are old timers, like Anthony is an old timer at the expo, and he'll be there in the background as well if necessary.
Okay, I do see some hands up, but before we go to that, Barry, what's going on in chat?
Yes, there's a question about, can the expo be up for more than 30 days?
Well, that's a very good question, Barry. Barry, the Expo platform costs over $20,000 to run on a weekend, and then for the 30 days. So it's a very expensive way to serve up content. It's a great way to serve up content for the weekend. It allows us to do a lot of things that we wouldn't be able to do just on Zoom, or because it's a combination of products. But the presentations will go into the QSO Today Virtual Ham Expo library. That library currently is on our website. So if you go to our hamexpo.com website and you look underneath, you'll see a ribbon that takes you to all of the previous presentations, about 270 of them. And the 50 or so that we have, 55 that we have, will go into that library. Now the question is what should happen to that library after the expo? So one of the things I'm thinking about, because I don't want this content to become, a dead letter stop. What I'd like this expo to do is to be a way that we kick off a conversation. So I have this idea that I'm still kind of creating in my brain, and any feedback is helpful, of creating the QSO Today Academy. And the idea with the Academy is that I'll go and I'll invite all of those people that gave presentations before to come back maybe once a week, for a meeting like RATPAC, once a week or something like that, to make a presentation again, so we'll play it again, have new Q&A, and then around that, is there a project here? Let's say the 122 gigahertz transceiver, you're going to watch that presentation, you're going to say, wow, that's really cool, I'd like to do that, but after the expo, it was a presentation, but you have no follow-up. What I'd like to see is I'd like to see whether or not there's a group of people that would like to figure out how to do that, and is there some way that with the presenter or with my expo team, whether or not we could create additional courses on the same subject in order to be able to have people successfully create that 122 gigahertz transceiver. So I'd like to see the presentations be kind of like the seed to start deeper ham radio learning. Now, I have to tell you that I'm not talking, this isn't, the beginner's academy. Now, certainly beginners could do this, and we had a young lady just before we started who had just gotten her license and needs an Elmer. There may be an opportunity for that in the academy, but it seems to me that what's also needed in ham radio is for the people that say, I know how to solder, I know how to put together stuff, I now want to do something. I'm looking at Dennis's shack right now with all of the stuff he's got going there. Dennis could say, you know what, I've enjoyed my 50 years with my AM broadcast transmitters, but now I want to do a 122 gigahertz transceiver, and I want to be able to talk to somebody with it. So I've scared Dennis out of the room. Anyway, that's the idea. I'm thinking that we need an academy for higher education in amateur radio. I think that there's enough people that have an interest in that because it keeps the brain cells occupied, and it also allows people who are natural mentors, natural teachers, to have an outlet for their passion. I see it. So Dennis is holding up his 122 gigahertz. I knew I was picking on the wrong guy when I was doing that. So anyway, that's the idea. So will it be available after the expo? I think it will be available after the expo, either as through my Vimeo channel or something. But I've got this idea that I don't want it to kind of die on the vine because it's just in the catalog. I kind of want to make that content active again and have it turn into something, bigger. That's my dream.
Okay, Barry, anything else?
That's all from the chat.
Okay, Bill, K7 WIV, go ahead and take it.
All right. Unfortunately, I got to work this weekend because taxes don't pay themselves, and I was just wondering, in the 30 days, are the exhibitions still open, or is that just over the weekend?
No, the whole platform is open. Now, the only thing that may not be open is that at a certain point, the way these Kumo Space lounges work is this company isn't quite an exhibition company. They're a month-to-month company. So what you're going to see, well, you won't see it happening, but I'll certainly see it on my credit card. As more and more people come into the Kumo Space lounges as the weekend opens, Emanuela has my credit card, and she keeps increasing the concurrent license number. So right now we're sitting at 50, but we'll get up to about 300. That's 300 times $5. So in the first couple of hours of the expo, we'll spend another $1,500 in order to hold the platform open. But as the weekend is over, then I will take that number down. So you can still use the Kumo Space lounges, but there probably won't be very many. From last time we saw that people didn't really come back to them after the weekend. But the entire platform, otherwise, all of the exhibitions, all of the poster galleries, all of the presentations will be available until October 17th or 18th. So you'll be able to come back and you'll be able to view all the presentations. It's all on demand. And the new poster gallery, you'll be able to go through that as well. So everything is there for 30 days. And for $10, I've read some very interesting social media comments on a $10 ticket. I have to tell you, I can't park in Jerusalem for less than $10. So here's an opportunity to spend a weekend and the entire month afterwards looking at some of the best ham radio content that exists on the planet. And I hope that you'll come. By supporting this effort, it helps to pay for this hugely expensive platform that we do this on. And it gives us an opportunity to do another one if the demand is there. And if it's not, then we won't do it anymore. We'll do something else. But we hope that you come and that you'll enjoy it. Even though you have to work the weekend, Bill, you can still come back for the next month.
Okay. And $10 for parking. Gee, it's 15 in Boise. You guys are getting a deal.
Are we really?
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, he knows because I don't go downtown and park, but I'm sure it's getting expensive. Okay.
No, it's the biggest. What's an interesting thing is that it was a ham radio operator that developed the parking system in Jerusalem. It was a ham radio operator in Colorado who got the first contract for doing automated parking. He was the guy that invented the Denver boot, if you remember. Remember the Denver boot, which is a thing that went on your car. If you parked in the wrong place, they'd boot your car and you couldn't drive it away. So parking is big business in Jerusalem, as it may be in other places. It may be one of the key revenue generators for the city of Jerusalem.
Okay, are there any more? Barry, how we doing in chat?
Everything is good. Little Dan has his hand up.
A little bit.
Yeah, for Bill's sake, I always avoid crowds whenever I can, including virtual ones. And the $10 is a steal of a deal, just so you get to see anytime over the next 30 days those presentations that you're interested in. How do I say it? I have a hard time wanting to navigate in virtual space. So I've always paid for the ticket, and I don't think I've ever attended when it was happening.
But you do come back for the 30-day on demand.
Oh, clearly worth the $10 for even one or two of the talks. Some of them are so good. Yeah.
I think they're amazing. I've already had a chance to look at many of the presentations. We have to look at. We ask the presenters to upload their video. Now, there's a reason some people might say, "Oh, you're doing it, pre-recorded." One of the things that we learned about doing virtual is that that if you preload it, then you have the presentation for the weekend. In the very first Expo, we had a couple of presenters that had to go to emergency rooms with family members who had COVID. And so if we didn't have the presentation would not have run. And so it ran, and they were able to do the Q&A from their phones from the emergency room. So we still have we have high quality presentations. I've seen all of them. Dan, that's so sweet. It's so sweet to have your wife come in and kiss you while you're talking to me. I should wake up mine. Mine is still asleep in bed.
I'll survive if I don't repeat what she said while she was doing it.
Anyway, so I've seen the presentations already. Ben, who works with me and who edits the QSO Today podcast, has also when there's some kind of fiddling around at the very beginning of the presentations where they're trying to figure out how to get the recording button to work. So we actually will edit that off. We'll put a slide on if it came without a slide, so that it starts good. It's nice and clean. So I've seen them. They are great, and you will not be disappointed this time. The presenters and the presentations just get better and better every time we do this.
Okay, Anthony, you got your hand up, sir.
Well, if Dan gets everything all straightened up in time, we wanted to let everyone know we're going to be in a Kumo space for RATPAC, so you're going to want to come by and join us there. And also Friday night, we're going to be doing the kickoff night again, so come visit us for Friday night for RATPAC.
Yes. Hope to make it worth your while. Michelle, got your hand up?
Oh, it's actually Michael.
Oh, Michael,
Hey,
I'm sorry.
Hey,
Well, in French, it's Michelle, right?
that's weird. My video's not working. Cheap camera.
Put your hands up.
Good. Yes, I like to say that I too enjoyed the Expo. I learned so much from the last one, and at $10, it's probably the best bargain around.
There's one other thing I might say about the Expo. The people that do the presentations are nice people. Okay? That means that if there's a subject that they're doing that you're interested in, then you should contact them after the Expo. They love to talk about what they're doing. What a great way to find a mentor on that. I talked about that midway, next to the tents. Each of these presenters is one of those tents on the midway, and you should not hesitate to contact them if you want to follow up on their subject. This should not be a, you know, a static universe. This is a very dynamic universe, and I'm hoping that that the learning will come out of this, that people will become more expert in ham radio. And as I've said before, I had Courtney Duncan from who used to be an engineer at JPL. He's now retired. He's the president of the San Bernardino Microwave Society. Half the hams at half the engineers at JPL are hams, and those are the same guys that put the Voyager spacecraft, you know, out of the solar system. So we have that level of expertise in ham radio, and those guys are waiting for the call. So so after the expo, please be sure to follow up if you have an interest in any of the subjects that are presented.
Yes.
And we're going to have all the pizza you can eat, as long as Anthony can make them fast enough.
At the expo, yes.
You know, one of the things I tried to do at the second expo is that you guys have these services in America that you go to the website and you can choose between which fast food company you want, and it knows exactly where you live, and you can order. So I thought to put a food cart in the lobby of the expo. I couldn't get any of these companies to even return a phone call. But I thought, well, wouldn't that be fun? You could order, you could go back to the lobby, you could click on the food cart, and you could actually order a pizza delivered to your location while you're enjoying the expo. I'm sorry it didn't happen. I thought it would have been fun.
That would have been fun. Okay, looking around for any more hands, nothing showing. Jessica doesn't have the question on her face anymore, so I guess she's been taken care of. Okay. Any comments out there? I'm going to say 73s, everybody, then, and I'm going to sign this out and look forward to seeing you maybe tomorrow night.